of the Planning Committee. Welcome to those in the public gallery, including Councillor Hugh Bevan, who's going to be speaking in relation to one of the items on the agenda. For those who aren't aware, Tim James on my right, far right is the legal officer advising the committee. Rachel, you know, Rachel Beale is taking the minutes. Richard Lewis is the chief, no, he's something other, he's the developmental planning manager type person. Sorry about that. On his left is Sue Davis, who's substituting for Paul Wielden from the Highways Department. Norman Jones at the DICE, who is a team leader in planning, and Sarah Hensby, who's sitting down with planning officer. And of course, you all know Geraint, who's taking the pictures. So beware that for those of you who are visitors, which I think is only that gentleman, this meeting is being recorded and live webcast. So if you talk, you're likely to be on camera. And even if you don't talk, you may be on camera, so be careful. Okay, so if we could turn to the agenda. I'm trying to turn to the agenda, but my computer won't let me. Item 2 is declarations. Oh, sorry, attendance. Anybody got any other apologies for absence from people who aren't obviously here?
Councillor Len Constance, but I have recorded it on the sheet.
Thank you very much. Any others? Okay. Declarations of interest. Tim, any advice to offer?
Yes, Chair, I do, thank you. It's in relation to a number of councillors who are members of community or town councils which have been consulted on various applications. Item 7 on the agenda, application at Bellevue Road, Cwmbran. Councillor Ashley, I think you'll want to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest because you're a member of Cwmbran Community Council who were consulted on that application. Is that correct? Thank you. Pardon? We get consulted on masks as well. Right, that's okay, Councillor Ashley, that's fine, thank you. And then item 8 on the agenda, planning application at Pennegarn Heights. Councillor Parish and Councillor Taylor and Councillor Keith James, I think you'll all wish to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest in relation to that as members of Pontypool Community Council. Is that correct, please?
That's correct.
Yes, thank you. And then item 9, application in relation to Bunkersill Blenavon, Councillor Furzer. I think you're a member of the Town Council who were consulted, and I think you were individually consulted on the matter as well. So you wish to declare a personal interest in relation to that. Those are the declarations I'm aware of at the moment, Chair. Thank you. Okay,
item 3 then, agenda of the previous meeting on the 16th of December. I've run through for accuracy. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. And 13. Any comments? Or are you happy to agree these as a true record? That's moved, seconded, all agreed? Thank you. Are there any issues arising from those minutes which members wish to raise? Thank you. Let's move on to item 4 then, which is the minutes of the special meeting on the 8th of January. Again, we'll go through for accuracy, although before we do that, I need to make an apology to Councillor Robert Kemp, who's listed on page 15 as being absent, which is accurate, but I mentioned that he was absent from the chair, thinking that he was still on the planning committee, but in fact he'd left the planning committee a couple of months previous to that, so that was my mistake. So any embarrassment caused to Councillor Kemp for listing him as absent when there was no reason for him to be at the meeting. My apologies to him for that error on my part. For accuracy now, page 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25. 26. 27. 28. You all happy to agree these as a true record? Councillor Seaborn.
Could I just make a comment that it's, they've got a Councillor Clark down. We've got two Councillor Clarks within the council. Could we have the initial put in, Councillor G. Clark, to save any confusion?
Yes, that's no problem. Thank you. Any other issues? So happy then with that amendment to confirm there's a true record? Thank you. Are there any issues arising from the minutes which members wish to raise? Any questions? No? You're happy? Okay, thank you. Let's move on then to item 5, which is the annual rollout plan for mobile phone base stations. This is for information and comments. Are we introducing it? No. We're not proposing to introduce this particular report. Any questions or comments? You see that the recommendation asks you to note the report and to direct any observations to the Chief Planning and Public Protection Officer, which you can do now or subsequent.
Can I move the recommendations subject to all?
So, yep, that's
whatever's
fine.
on the back.
Moving acceptance of the report. That's agreed, is it? All those in favour, please show. Fine, thank you. Moving on then, item 6, planning application for alterations to existing covered area. My print is very small. Making an internal space and additional replacement centre erected. Oh, dear. Yes, I can see it now. Right. Sarah, you're going to introduce this report, and Councillor Bevan is here to speak on this particular item, which we'll come to in due course. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. This application is an alteration to existing covered area, making an internal space and additional replacement shelter. It's an existing nursery and a shelter play area. The photo actually shows the existing nursery on the right-hand side and the covered play area on the left-hand side of that photo. The next photo shows the nursery again, and this time the nursery is on the left and the covered area is on the right-hand side. The grassed area in the foreground of this photo actually shows the position of the proposed new covered shelter. And then the next photo, once again, shows the actual position of the proposed shelter, so the new building that would be erected would be in this position. And then the next photo, this is the actual access to the adjoining school with the access to the nursery just out of sight to the right of the actual photo. And this is the actual boundary with the actual school, which is on the adjoining site. As you can see, this is a layout plan with the hatched building being the existing nursery. The parking spaces are shown on the actual plan, and where the actual arrow is at the moment, that's the position of the proposed new building. And the building just to the right of that is the building which is to be enclosed to provide additional accommodation. So this actually shows the design, so it's going to reflect the existing covered shelter that's actually on the site. And this actual plan shows a public right-of-way, which it doesn't cross the actual site, it's the green line that's just been highlighted now. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Richard, would you care to make a comment, please?
Just to let the members know that I was handed a letter. It's from a Dr. Peter Grossi. He's one of the residents in the area. He has objected to the application, and he sent in the same letter that he objected to on the planning application. He couldn't be here today, otherwise I think he would have spoken. Given that the letter is the same one that he sent on the application, we've already covered all those points in the report. So I'm not proposing to read out the letter, but he has emphasised really all the objections that are in the report he wanted to draw members' attention to. Thank you, Chair.
Fine. Councillor Bevan, would you care to come down and have your 5 minutes?
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, I'd like to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest in that I'm Torvine's appointed representative on the Board of School Governors at Pontiac Church in Wales School. Indeed, I met with Mr. Brown, who's on an overseas trip. He would have liked to have spoken today as well, but he can't because he's away, unfortunately. And as has already been mentioned from the top table, I met with Dr. Grossi yesterday, who handed me that letter, which is in effect an exact duplication of the one that the Planning Committee had already received. And he outlines a number of points, but as they've already been raised, I won't go through all of those. I wanted to speak on this briefly because I do have a degree of empathy with the residents there. If this application is approved, then they would lose their view from the rears of their properties. There would be an extension of the building right across so that the residents would lose their view of the cricket pitch and playing fields in the background in that photo. That is, on the screen now, is the view from the rear of Dr. Grossi's house, overlooking that. The site on which the application has been submitted for, I believe it's school ground that's being leased to Sarenvark. Historically, there were plans there for the Community Council to install an orchard on that site, but because there were differences of opinion between the Community Council and the school over unrestricted access, those plans were never progressed to fruition. But as you can see in the previous photo, the top end of the site, the school children have actually turned that into a bee-friendly environment. It's encouraging pollinators, wildlife, and there has been a small number of trees planted there, and they use it for growing things as well. The concerns with the Sarenvark application are that there's been a considerable number of extensions over the years to the site. I don't know if you can see on the next photograph. The the property, it's not evidently clear on that particular photo because of the angle of the sun, I'm afraid, but the property has been developed and extended on both sides, to the left and the right. So it's already been considerably extended. Some might say that there's been a policy of extension through stealth because Sarenvaart know that the issue of the car parking being in its close proximity to the school is very contentious, with parents picking up and dropping off children. The applications that have been previously submitted have been gone in for a covered vehicle area, and I note when the officer here, Sarah Hensby, mentioned it was a covered play area. In fact, it wasn't ever intended as a covered play area, and there seems to be a history of this where applications are approved which are purported to be for vehicles to park in because of they are aware of the impact that it does have on the traffic in that area, and parents dropping off their children at the school are no longer able to park in the pub car park either at the start. So it's compounding the traffic problem. I feel that there's been a history of growth through stealth in terms of the vehicle covered areas further being modified into classrooms. And there have been significant extension to the site already. The community is well served by another nursery within a mile of the premises at the entrance to the Star Brick and Tile Industrial Estate. And I have a degree of empathy with the residents there in terms of the loss of the green space.
One further minute, Councillor Bevan. 1 minute left.
Okay. Loss of view, loss of green space, the fact that if it's approved, it'll be an irreversible step. You couldn't possibly get that reinstated back to how it was. I don't feel it's necessary to serve the needs of the local community for us to have that extension. It's a profitable business. It's not a charitable business. And like I say, I do feel that it's to increase the numbers of children attending there, and probably many of which are coming from outside the immediate local community. So that's what I wish to raise on it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Parry, would you care to come and respond? Thank you. Mr. Parry is the agent for the applicant. You two have 5 minutes, please.
First, I'd like to thank Sarah for the comprehensive report addressing the invalid objections made. I refer the committee to the report that negates all of the objections made, even the ones stated today. For this reason, I'm perplexed why it's actually made it to the committee meeting. The supplementary planning guidance with no grounds for refusal, the guidance has been adopted by the whole council and should be used by all council members when making the decision today. Before I address the objections, I'd like to explain the proposed development would not lead to the admission of extra children, so the parking would not be exacerbated, and no extra staff would be employed as a result. The nursery reached full capacity in 2007, and since then the owners have continued their investment programme to improve their services. The shelter would also be available for use by the Pontia School at no cost to the LEA. The head teacher and board of governors have both submitted a letter in support. Of the 6 neighbouring properties consulted, only 2 responded with letters of objection. The objections and the reasons why they aren't valid are loss of view. No property is entitled to a view. Loss of green areas. It's a D1 use premises. It's not designated as a public open space. There's no need for additional building and overdevelopment. I can't understand how the Community Council are in a position to determine this. And the planners have determined it's not overdevelopment. The traffic congestion will not be increased. There's no additional parking. And it's an existing nursery, so you can't state this should be on a brownfield site. 20 years ago, the land would never be built on, a kind of comment that wasn't present, but have failed to be presented with any supporting evidence of this. Councillor Bevan has mentioned growth by stealth. I find this to be it's tarnishing that Serenbach claiming they're deceitful, which in this instance, I mean, this befits Councillor Bevan's accusations. The shelter the first time was not proposed to be a car shelter. It's always been a play area, and that's what it's been used for since its development. I submitted that application, so I'm aware of what it was first submitted for. I suggest that he undertakes more research before bringing something before the Committee Council. The right-of-way doesn't run through the site, and a site visit has been called for by Councillor Bevan with a full planning committee and residents present. This will be a complete waste of time, and this plan application is already long overdue. Councillor Bevan is on the board of governors at Pontiac Church and Wales School. Why he's not in favour of the application that it serves to improve the facilities at no cost to the LEA, a thriving primary school that has coordinated relationship with a nursery that provide breakfast and after-school clubs, a great asset to the local community. There's been a petition signed by members of the Community Council, with a majority living over 1,600 feet away from the development, so their opinion doesn't really bear any resemblance to the locale. Only one of the objectors has a clear view of the development. Serenbach Amelia enhancing the service it provides to the children it nurtures, providing a safe and stimulating environment for the children of the local community it serves. The mean-spirited and selfish objections raised by the Community Council ask the questions: whose interest do they have in mind, the community or their own? Reiterating my comments about the growth by stealth,
1 minute
what
to go,
evidence
Speaker.
does Councillor Bevan have to back this up? Does he have any planning applications? Has he looked on the planning online planning database? And I would like to reiterate that the parking situation will not be exacerbated because no more children would be admitted, no extra staff will be employed. All of the objections raised have been negated by the planning officer's report. So any objection raised, even the ones mentioned today, don't really bear any weight in the planning decision. I think that's about it, really.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Carey. Sarah, would you like to comment on what's been said?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, in terms of trees, Councillor Bevan mentioned that there are trees planted on the site. If we go back to the photos, these are actually not on the site of the specific building. If we go back to the other photos, you can see the position which I pointed out doesn't actually have any trees located on the actual site of the proposed building. So that's the position of the proposed new building. Secondly, extension by stealth and the covered vehicle parking, which the agent actually referred to. The actual application that I think Councillor Bevan was referring to was a 2011 application, which was for a shelter over an existing play area. That was actually reported to Planning Committee in January 2012 and was for a covered play area and not for a covered vehicular parking area. In terms of an increase in the actual number of children at the facilities, as the agent has pointed out, the application isn't for an increase in the actual number of children at the nursery, but an increase in the actual facilities. With that, we already have a condition on the nursery limiting the number of children there, and we have reiterated that in this report, we are proposing to actually add a condition to an approval if that is approved, stating that the number of children shall not exceed 71 places. This is a repeat of a previous condition due to the fact that the actual building is a separate building to the actual main nursery. Thank you, Chair.
Richard, anything you want to say?
I think it's probably worth just reiterating again, in terms of a view, and I think we've explained this to members before, that a view isn't something that we can protect under planning, and that's well established in case law now. So I think it's important that members are aware of that, as distinct from an outlook, which is something that is so close to you, it's overpowering. That's different to a view, which is something that's more in the distance. Thank you, Chair.
Fine. Okay, members, over to you. Any questions, any comments, please? You're remarkably quiet. Have you decided already? Anybody care to move a motion? Councillor Seaborn?
Can I move the officer's recommendation, public, subject to the 4 conditions and the notes to the applicant, please?
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Waite seconds that. Are you ready to vote, or does anybody wish to move an amendment? It seems not. Ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. The application is approved. Thank you. We'll move on to number 7. Which is about an 8.3 metre high climbing net at Cwmbran Park play area off Bellevue Road, Old Cwmbran. Sarah, I think you're doing the honours again, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've actually had late correspondence in relation to this application. Firstly, Bellevue Nursery, they've been asked to support the objections of the neighbours in the area. They've stated that the climbing frame would attract older youths, and they've got concerns that the gates would no longer be locked, allowing the play area to be used at night, causing disturbance. They acknowledge that it's not fair to accuse all teenagers of engaging in antisocial behaviour, and they do support the development of the park with the additional facilities in there. We've also had late correspondence from a Mr Woodhouse, a resident in the area, who reports that within the committee report, the skate park is to be locked at 8 p.m. He stated that this isn't always the case, and that there are actually gaps in the chain link fence which will allow youths to actually enter into the park later than 8 p.m. Neighbourhood Services, who are the actual applicant of this application, have also provided late correspondence. They said that the gates are actually locked between 8 and 9 p.m. The times vary as other parks and facilities in the area are actually locked on an evening as well. So it's not always dead on 8 that the actual park the gates are locked. And they do acknowledge that there are gaps in the fence, and also that the bowling green is managed by the bowling club rather than themselves. However, as they actually lock the park, they do not condone use of the park after 9 p.m. And with that, they said that all play areas can attract antisocial behaviour, and this piece of equipment should not actually attract any additional antisocial behaviour. And with that they're providing the extra facilities on there, they wouldn't actually envisage that would attract anything over and above the use of a park. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments from up on the top table? No? No. Members, any questions or comments, please? Yes, please.
Could I ask whether similar sets of equipment has been put up elsewhere around Wales?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I've seen that equipment before in other parks, but I couldn't tell you exactly where else that's been put. But I don't think it's an unusual bit of equipment. I think it has been put in other parks, yes, but I don't know definitely.
We got it elsewhere in the borough?
I'm not sure, honestly. No.
It would have been helpful to have known that fact, wouldn't it?
I don't think we've had any other applications for this in the borough. The only reason that this requires permission is because it's 8 metres high, which is quite tall, and I don't recall having any other applications for that kind of equipment in the borough, no. But I can't tell you that it's definitely not anywhere else in the borough. The
other thing I obviously wanted to know was that is there safety matting, safety bark, etc. underneath it? Because it doesn't say whether there is.
From a planning point of view, they've provided specifications of the unit, and it's got to comply with certain regulations for children's playgrounds. So that's been provided by the specification. So we're happy that in terms of the management of the park, yeah, that will be a safe piece of equipment.
Councillor Crick.
Sorry, I was going to ask, and then Richard did say that there isn't another similar piece in Torvine, because it did look a little bit like the equipment that was put up last year down by the boating lake. It looks very similar to it. I don't know if it's the same manufacturer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. No.
Anyone else wish to comment? Anyone else got concerns? Don't forget, this is a proposal from Neighbourhood Services. This is a facility for children. I'm quite sure that Neighbourhood Services would not put up a piece of equipment in a manner which would render danger to children behaving responsibly with the supervision of adults where children were young. Councillor Seaborn.
If I am allowed, Chair, with the lack of play equipment within the borough and within Cwmbran, I would like to move the officer's recommendation subject to the two conditions and notes to the applicant.
Okay, that's moved and seconded by Councillor Ashley. Anybody wish to move an amendment? Anybody wish to debate the matter? Ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That too is unanimous. Thank you. Item 8, which is about replan of plots 59 to 62 and 83 to 85 at Pennygarn Heights in Trevethyn. Norman's just going to show you the
Yes,
site,
yeah.
the plan of the site anyway, and a quick intro.
Yeah, members, the plan on your agenda shows the whole development site, but the application actually refers to these two parcels of land, and the proposal is to increase the numbers from the 7 originally to 9. So you bring it in semi-detached as opposed to detached previously. So they're inside the site and not adjacent to the peripheral houses. Thank you.
Any questions? Any comments? Note that this will also require a change to the Section 106 agreement, which I think will be beneficial to the council from a financial point of view. Not that that should necessarily sway you one way or the other. But Councillor Davis.
Just to inquire, Chair, have any comments been made on this by ward members on this council or on Pontypool?
Well, if they had, they'd be reported in the report. And Councillor Wayne.
Chair, could I recommend the recommendations to be approved with the conditions and the 106 agreements.
Is that seconded? Councillor Seaborn, seconds. Councillor Wade's motion. Okay, anybody wish to move an amendment? Anybody wish to debate the matter? Are you ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you. So, we move on swiftly to item 9, which is a proposed replacement of a 17.5 metre column and antenna with a new 17.5 metre column structure, accommodating more antennas than the old one. I think we just go straight into debate on this one, and there's you can see the photos of where it is, up Glenavon Way. And there's the existing one. And there's the...
No, that's the existing.
So, and there we are. And there you see a much more... Well, it's a structure which will take more antennae and therefore render the need for more mass in that area void, if you see what I mean. Okay, anybody wish to talk about it? Anybody wish to raise a concern? No? Are you ready to vote? Is anybody prepared to stick their hand up and move a motion to that effect? Councillor Seaborn. Councillor Furzer, therefore, is moving the motion to support the officer's recommendation, and Councillor Seaborn is seconding. Are there any amendments? No. No further debate? As if we've had any? No. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Yes. Okay, well, that concludes the business, apart from noting that the next meeting is whenever it is, 17th of March. See you then, folks. Thanks very much.